challenge has been just making sure that consumers are actually able to get on a website, see those choices, and shop. And I think that we probably underestimated the complexities of building out a website that needed to work the way it should.
Yeah, it's very hard building a website. You got to realize that. So give the guy a pass. We're joined right now as we welcome you back to the Steve Malzberg Show by our friend Colonel Alan West, former congressman, of course, from the great state of Florida. Hello, Colonel.
Steve, how are you doing? It was great seeing you Saturday night down in Florida.
I was just going to say, and I have that great, lovely picture from your wonderful wife who was gracious enough to send it to me. I'm going to post that tonight on my Facebook page and all over. So it was really nice to see you down there at Restoration Weekend. So many great people, Paul Vallely and Ted Cruz and Ben Carson. And so it was a great event. David Horowitz did a great thing. Now, let me run a couple of things by you here. When you hear the president, as recently as yesterday, not only say that it's hard to set up a website, but also basically the new tack now is they're blaming Republicans because Republicans have never done anything to help the law along. So therefore, they're to blame for the fact that it's not working.
About a 72, 96-hour period, set up a website that could do the functions of the healthcare.gov, and it was working fine. So this is just government incompetence, but I also believe there's a little intentional nefariousness at play as well, because I think that they really want to destabilize the insurance market. But look, Steve, they've got to have someone to blame. They set up the insurance industry for blame. Now they're coming back to the same old thing as those obstructionist Republicans who never helped us along with this horrible idea in the first place, so they're to blame as well. So the president is looking for a lifeline anywhere where he can find one. But again, it comes back to one simple thing: his lack of leadership, his lack of an ability to understand anything as far as the operations of this government, by which he is the chief executive officer. And I think now we're up to about 9 or 10 times I've heard him, between speaking at the White House and speaking at that Wall Street Journal executive meeting, using the word complex or complexity or some variation thereof. He has no clue, and that's all we can say.
You want to let me play for you a bite, Will. I don't want to throw you a curve in the control room. This will be cut 4. Listen to him back in 2008 during I believe this was I don't know if this was a Democratic debate or one of the debates, but listen to how he described himself and what he said about himself. This should have been a real warning, a real red flag. Here's cut 4.
My greatest weakness, I think, is that when it comes to, I'll give you a very good example. I ask my staff never to hand me paper until 2 seconds before I need it, because I will lose it. And my desk in my office doesn't look good. I've got to have somebody around me who is keeping track of that stuff. And that's not trivial. I need to have good people in place who can make sure that systems run. That's what I've always done, and that's why we've run not only a good campaign, but a good U.S. Senate office.
Yeah, and of course, if you add to that he admitted to Barbara Walters, he volunteered to Barbara Walters, that he's lazy.
Yeah.
Wow, what a chief executive that all those qualities make for, right?
Well, he's great at golf.
No, he's not.
He's out there enough playing.
Yeah,
he should be great at golf. But again, that shows you right now that this is a person that we all said, he never even ran a lemonade stand. This was a community organizer. Community organizers are good at exactly what he did in campaigning, going out there and riling up the masses and truthfully lying to them and promising them everything that they want. But he cannot execute. He does not know how to have a strategic vision, a strategic plan. Look at his failing foreign policy. Look at the failing economic policy. I know a lot of people up there in New York City are all thrilled about the Dow Jones hitting 16,000. But if we were to stop printing money, I guarantee you the Dow Jones would probably be, cut in half within no time, flat, because, we're trying to stimulate an economy by printing money, not because of any real strong economic policy ideas that are emanating from this president. As opposed to what John F. Kennedy, who we remember his assassination today, he had a plan, he had a vision, and he talked about it. And the Democrat that John F. Kennedy was, back in 1961 and 63, That's not the Democrat that we see today, and I think that's something that we need to start understanding.
Absolutely, and I just
the president said who he was, and for whatever reason, no one wanted to believe it.
Absolutely, we're talking to Alan West here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me play something for you. Part of the horrific statement made while we were down at Restoration Weekend. This was being said by Martin Bashir on MSNBC, talking about Sarah Palin. Let's go at cut 3, and here it is.
Flogged Punch well and then washed and rubbed salt, pickle, lime juice and bird pepper. Made Negro Joe in his eyes and mouth. I could go on, but you get the point. When Mrs. Palin invokes slavery, she doesn't just prove her rank ignorance. She confirms that if anyone truly qualified for a dose of discipline from Thomas Thistlewood, then she would be the outstanding candidate.
Now, what he was alluding to was he read more of that. He read how one slave was forced to defecate and urinate in the mouth of another slave, and he didn't like the terminology, the connection between the health care, Obamacare, and slavery, which I believe, if it has been used before. But he actually said that should happen to Sarah Palin. Now, MSNBC to this day has not said boo. He apologized yesterday. I had Joe Scarborough on a little while ago, and Scarborough said that he agrees with the apology, and he says, but you could be sure Bashir did not write it all by himself. I mean, is it conceivable at all to you that this guy hasn't been fired or suspended? I mean, you have been the brunt of some horrific attacks, but I've never seen an attack like this, and it's against a woman.
Yeah, well, the Democrat Party, the modern-day Democrat Party, is the party of misogyny, and they're the party of racists. I don't care what Oprah Winfrey says. And to understand, and you and I know what goes into preparing for a show, obviously this was a prepared statement that he wrote. This statement had to be loaded up into a teleprompter by others and probably had to be approved by his producers. And then he was reading that statement. So for him to come back and say he apologizes, the only reason he apologizes is because he caught heat for it. Now, the fact that MSNBC has allowed him and Ed Schultz, who his despicable reference to Laura Ingraham as a talk slut, they reward these guys and they give them their shows and they keep them on these shows. And really, that's the essence of the progressive socialist mind. That is the essence of the Saul Alinsky tactic. Saul Alinsky from Chicago, Barack Obama from Chicago, David Axelrod from Chicago, David Plouffe from Chicago, Hillary Clinton from Chicago, Rahm Emanuel from Chicago, Ezekiel Emanuel from Chicago. I think you're getting the idea. This is who they are, and they can say they apologize. They don't mean it. It is all about the tactics of destroying your opposition, destroying their character, freezing a target, eliminating it. That's what Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals is all about, and that's what they will continue to use. And there's a duplicitous hypocrisy out there.
Let me ask you one final question. At Restoration Weekend, I was able to speak with Ted Cruz, and he's been talking a lot about, as others have, about the lawlessness of the Obama administration, how 9 times the U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously rejected the Department of Justice arguments related to various issues, from the EPA to religious freedom, right on down the list, and how this president has time and time again, not only with regard to Obamacare, but with regard to welfare reform, relaxing the work requirement, immigration laws, and DOMA, has decided to change laws, not to enforce laws, to change portions of laws, all by himself without any congressional approval. And Ted Cruz, I asked him if it's impeachable, and he said he would urge the House to use its best judgment. What do you say?
There is no doubt that the president has brought forth impeachable offenses. I mean, we can talk about aiding, abetting the enemy. You can talk about lying to the American people, as he did post Benghazi, and also lying to the American people about keeping their insurance plans and keeping their doctors, period. But then, of course, we see that has been changed. The Affordable Care Act is not a law. It's just an edict. It has been changed and amended 19 different times from the executive branch, who, by the Constitution, is supposed to execute law, not make policy. So, we do have a constitutional crisis in the United States of America, but guess what? I guess my saying this means that I am racist, but if we don't go down that path, the president should resign. And Major General Valley has even said that, the top leadership in this country should resign based upon the direction we're heading. But you have to have honor to be able to do that. And I think also that there's too great of a fear from a lot of people in Congress and the House of Representatives to bring up impeachment charges, because so many people are more concerned about a historical moment than the future of this republic.
Right, and they're afraid of being accused of racism. One more for you. I know I lied. I said that would be one more, but the president.
You're just like the president.
I know, but I only did it once. I only did it once. I didn't repeat it over and over. Let me ask you about the poll numbers. The CBS News poll today, New York Times CBS poll, has his approval rating at 37%. The other one had him at 39%. One had him at 41%. They don't trust him. They think he's dishonest. So everybody must be racist these days. And the health care is so far underwater that about 65% now want to get rid of the whole thing. I mean, is this not vindication for the Republican stance on this all along?
It is vindication, and, the president has no credibility. And remember, I think it was about a month or so ago, I told you he is a pathological liar. He has confidence in lying. He is very comfortable with it. And finally, it has caught up to him and the American people by way of getting these cancellation notices. They don't believe him anymore. Now, how can we go forward for the next 3 years in this country with a president that no one believes in this country, but also a president that no one believes anywhere in this world? We're at a critical point.
Absolutely. Just look at Israel. Who would have thought that Barack Obama, the great the bringer together of people, would bring together Saudi Arabia and Israel because he abandoned both of them.
And he has brought Russia back into play in Egypt.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the case of Nasser.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Colonel, always a pleasure. Please, my regards to your lovely wife. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care. That's Colonel Alan West, ladies and gentlemen, former congressman, of course, and here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Very, very interesting. Now, the president said just the other day, remember, he said, I didn't know there were going to be problems with the website rollout. I mean, why would I be going around? It's something to this effect. People say a lot of things about me, but I'm not going to go around saying, hey, we're going to have a website like Amazon.com if I know there are going to be problems. Why would I promise that? Well, guess what? Another lie. CBS News with a big report last night and this morning, which talks about the fact that the White House, the president himself, was alerted to the problems with the website fully 6 months prior, that this was going to be a disaster. So when he stands there last week and says, hey, people say a lot of things about me, but why would I promise an Amazon.com when I knew there were going to be problems? I didn't know nothing. Yeah, you knew. You did know. You're lying again, according to CBS News. When does the lying stop? When? Now, we're going to play you that report from CBS News when we come back.